Hi, this is Billy Campbell from Sci-Fi's Helix, and you are listening to GenreTainment.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of GenreTainment over here at SciFiPulseRadio.com. We're your hosts Marx
and Julie, and GenreTainment is where we talk about what's happening in the world of film, TV, and web series. We give you interviews with writers, directors, producers, and actors in both independent and not-so-independent creations. Now for today's show, we chat with German filmmaker Huan Vu about his upcoming film, The Dreamlands, which takes place in the infamous Dreamlands setting first created by classic horror author H.P. Lovecraft.
We learn about their Indiegogo campaign, about his past film projects, which include a film adaptation of The Color Out of Space, and a Warhammer fan film which faced some challenges.
Just a few. Now, you may have noticed that we have slowed down on new episodes. Part of that is Marx's upcoming book coming out in October. It's called Television on the Wild Wild Web and How to Blaze Your Own Trail. And you can actually pre-order it right now on Amazon. Now, we've also been working on a few other projects, which has kept us pretty busy.
Now, before we get started with the interview, we do want to mention that the music you just heard at the beginning of the show was a snippet from the theme song for our web series Reality on Demand, a song composed and performed by our friend T-Sean Hardy. Now, you can find our web series at realityondemandseries.com.
And now it's time to chat with filmmaker Huan Vu. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about how you got started in filmmaking?
Oh, the beginning. Well, that's I think a kind of interesting story, because I went through many troubles. Because how can I say it? I tried to make a very big film when I was young. It was Damnatus, Warhammer 40,000 fan film. So that production wasn't professional in any way. It was a fan film with, a handheld camcorder camera, a mini DV camera. So it wasn't professional on any level. But we had the dream to make a real feature film back then, and we tried it. And some way we succeeded. It became a 2-hour feature-length film that, well, in some way is halfway between a professional film and a total amateurish production. So you could watch it. There are some parts that are not bad, not totally bad. But the other thing is, what I learned back then was legal stuff. We had the problem that the company that is the owner of the intellectual property, Warhammer 40,000, the manufacturer of that game. I don't know if everyone knows the game. It's a tabletop game, so you have small tanks and soldiers and creatures made of plastics, and you fight each other on a tabletop and with scenery, and you can shoot from one side to the other side, and it's a science fiction game and a battle system game. Yeah, I was a big fan. Still, I am a big fan of that game, and especially the universe behind that. It's a very sinister, gothic, sci-fi setting. And yeah, there was no fan film. I saw other guys making Star Wars and Star Trek fan films. We're talking of the 90s, late 90s. So I had the wish to make something like that for the Warhammer 40,000 community. Being a fan myself and seeing that other guys want to see this interesting world brought to life as well. So yeah, that was the plan. And soon before the ending of the production, soon before completion, we received an email by Games Workshop, the company, that we are not allowed to publish the film due to legal issues. We talked with the legal guys at Games Workshop, and we couldn't find out why they really didn't want us to bring out the film. There are some theories. I mean, one theory is that the film was too bad, but they told me it's not because of that. They didn't see the film at that stage, So it wasn't a judgment on the basis of our teaser trailer or something else. No, it's not about quality. It was really about legal stuff because in Germany you have a different, or on continental Europe you have a different copyright system than in England, and there was no precedenting case because the British have a case law system, so they need cases to say if something is right or wrong, and if there has never been a case like that at courts, there's some kind of a risk, I think. And in Germany, it's not that way. You have a codex, you have a clear rules since the Roman times and Napoleon. There are clear paragraphs, and so you can. I hope I'm telling it in a right way. I hope it's not wrong what I'm saying, but other guys told me that as well, that here in Germany you have a more secure basis on expecting if this is harmful for your company or not, because there are clear rules, and you see the rules, how they are laid out, so you know what is happening in case of a conflict. That's one theory. They told me that this would be the biggest problem in that case, that there are two different law systems competing and not working with each other. But it's not really 100% true, I would say, because there are big Hollywood productions where Germans are working together with American guys, productions, and working in England, or British people working here. So there is always the possibility to spend some money and make a good contract that is working. And we also offer them to sell them the rights to the film for a symbolic €1, and then we could publish it. I mean, I have to explain that we didn't want to make money with the film. That was planned as a film that is free to watch on the internet for the fans. So we didn't want to make any profit out of it. Yeah, so we offered them that possibility, but they didn't approach this. They didn't want to take the film, so we couldn't release it. And later on, some years later, they brought out an official film called Ultramarines. That is an animated feature film. And so there are some theories, or there's the theory that they probably didn't want our film out because they were in talks with that company about film rights and so on, and it was just too risky for them if there are some strange fans from Germany making a film and bringing it out. So that could be the truth, but I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what happened back then. There's also just the theory that they were too conservative in their thinking, because some years before that, it wasn't allowed to make Star Trek and Star Wars fan films. And it was just 2 or 3 years before we made Damnatos that George Lucas decided it's good for his brand and for the company Lucasfilm if the fans are doing that stuff. And they turned 180 degrees around, and they even provided on their website sound files to download for the fans, like the lightsaber sound, so that the fans can do something with it. And the only thing they say is that you're not allowed to make any profit out of your fan films. You have to release it for free. And that was the spirit back then. And I thought, yeah, we can do that as well. But Games Workshop is not Lucasfilm. They are a war game manufacturer. So perhaps the boss was just too conservative in his mind and didn't want something strange out on the internet. I don't know. So yeah, there are many theories, and it was for us emotionally a disaster since we worked on that film for 4 years.
Oh, wow. My goodness!
And spent all our money and hard work put into it, and couldn't release it. So that was really devastating.
That's very sad.
Yeah. But still, somehow the film came into the internet. If you are looking for it, it could be that you can find it somewhere to download. I can't tell you where, because I don't know if Games Workshop would file a suit. I don't know. But they changed their policy in the last few years. I think 2 or 3 years ago. Damnatos 10 years ago now, or even 11 years almost. That was 2003, 2004 when we shot the film. They changed their policy slightly. There are, I think, 2 or 3 new fan film projects right now in production. One is an animated short film. The other one is a real action short film. And both told me that so far Games Workshop is not acting against them. They are curious what is coming out, and perhaps they want to have a look at the final cut, and then they will perhaps approve it. So there are some change in their policy and philosophy.
So maybe you can revisit.
And that's good for fans. That's good for everyone.
So maybe you can revisit that, and I'll let you go ahead and put it up on YouTube or something without getting in trouble. Maybe. We'll see.
Here's hoping.
I'm curious because we do some filmmaking also in the U.S.
We know some people that do some filmmaking in England.
And I was trained in Canada. And so, but I have no idea what filmmaking is like in Germany or what the film industry is like there, or independent film industry.
Independent film industry, yeah.
Do you feel like it's like, or is it, I don't know how much you know about the U.S. one. But
he may not have anything to compare it to.
That's true. I didn't think that out.
I think, we are comparing very often to the United States. I mean, probably everyone is comparing to the United States, especially in terms of filmmaking, since you are, on the highest level as far as we see it, perhaps. But I've heard that it's hard as an independent filmmaker everywhere, probably. I think the problems are very different to the United States, since you have very big companies. They are churning out very big, high-budget films, and so it's hard to get artistically interesting small films out. It's quite commercial, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
And even the independent branch is commercializing art house films and so on. Here in Germany, it's totally different, and that's a huge problem for especially me. We have a film system that is based on, I try to find the right English words for it. It's state funded. It's not directly the state, but it's a branch of the state that is dealing with this. Cultural. I don't know how to call it. There are councils consisting of 7 or 8 or 10 people, and they are quite old, mostly, and tending towards more art house like films, social drama films, and they decide each year or each quarter of a year where all the millions of euros are going. So you have to apply there and say, this is the movie I would like to make. And then if they decide that this film should be made, you get to your budget an extra budget so that you can actually make the film, because most German films are not making any profit. So that's a huge problem. And the dominance of American films and also French films and other big film nations, they make a lot of money, and German films are usually not successful, and that's a big problem. And I say it's a very complex situation. But one thing that is clearly not working here is that because of this system, that the state, the government in some way is deciding which films are worthy to produce, and it's usually films that are, and I like those films. It's not bad, but it's a monoculture. If you only make films about social issues, about immigrants, feminism themes, about equality and so on, or other stuff, or just comedies, it's not enough. The films I would like to make are fantasy, horror, or science fiction films, and this is something that is almost abandoned here in Germany since the Second World War. The 20s, the golden 20s, many German filmmakers fled because of the Nazis. Yes. They went to Hollywood, and they invented some of the genres that we are having till this day. One of the first science fiction films was a German film, or adventure movies in kind of way like Indiana Jones. It's the 20s, so you can't compare it. But it was the first adventure film with fantastic settings and scenery and so on, and a hero. It was made here in Germany in the 20s. So that heritage is lost. And due to the historic events and political events here, and I can understand it, that the Germans here developed in that way that for a long time they wanted to see films that are very realistic in some way, and dealing with I quote, real problems. You know what I mean? Stuff that is happening in the real life and not fantastic things. But I think it's also not it's it's not a you shouldn't go that way only, because again it's some kind of a monoculture. The big strength of genre films like horror, fantasy, and science fiction is that you can deal with political and social issues, but not at the front rows. You have to put it in between the lines. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, more abstract, but
it's more abstract, and you can lure people in to see a science fiction film, and perhaps they are going because of the spaceships and the space battles. But in your story and in what is happening, you can deal with inequality, for example, or other social issues. And so that's the power and the strength. It's subversive. And also what's really important about genre films is that they, in some way, or often are quite maverick, and they are not following order. They are quite chaotic sometimes, especially horror films. They are very raw in their emotional basis. I mean, we compare here in Germany with the typical German crime drama. That is something that's happening on television, and many Germans love it and watch it on each second Sunday, spend their time and watch really. Yeah, it's not that bad, but most of them are really bad, and it's a normal crime story, and that's something that is discussed here at the moment in newspapers and on television and so on. That somehow this is typical for the German society, because you watch a crime drama film, or it's a series, and it's about a criminal or murderer, and then you have the good guy. He's a cop. And mostly he has some issues at home and some personal stuff, but he's still, symbolizing the government and order, social order. And he's going into this case and he's trying to find out who is the murderer. It's a usual whodunit story. And then at the end of the film, he usually finds out this is the murderer and restores order. And this is something that is quite typical for the German film culture right now. And we are discussing, why are we doing and creating such boring stuff all the time? I mean, yeah, some people like it, but probably they watch it because there's nothing else, nothing better. Or those
they need to make the
who know where to go watch, American series, which are 10 times better, like True Detective now, or Breaking Bad and so on. And that's all, all the series right now, modern series, are much darker. They are dealing with darker stuff. It's not about restoring order. Yeah. It's questioning order. It's questioning authority and so on. And so this is something that I think should change soon here in Germany as well.
And I think you're right. I think with genre, and I've always liked that about science fiction, is that it's often a safe way to have social commentary, because instead of having it right in your face, this is how it is right now and we're going to discuss it, you can put it in a different context, and maybe someone will see it in a different way when you take it out of the modern realistic setting.
Yeah. And it's feeding your brain in some way. That's why we all love fantasy, science fiction, and so on, because we want to see different worlds, different visions, and yeah, it's fantasy, so it's creative for your mind. And there was for a long time. I mean, it's a very, very complex issue. So it's also some kind of part of it. Was always the part of German culture. I made some research about it because I have to deal with this problem, and the other guys here in Germany who want to make such films as well. It began long before of the First World War. One problem in Germany is that there wasn't a united nation for a long time. Germany came together in the late 19th century and was dominated by the Prussians. It was the biggest state of all the German states. And the Prussians had a very authoritarian culture. I mean, you know it.
Yeah.
It's some kind of, you see it in films and so on. The First World War, German soldiers with their funny pointy helmet and so on. Yeah, Prussians, very strict, very orderly, and with a strong authoritarian government and so on. And back then, it's the same story again. There were many German writers like Jules Verne who wrote about science fiction, who wrote about spaceships and about fantastic things happening. And those those authors were opposed by the government because the government thought this is crap. This is not. That's the other part of the story because the German identity back then was very strongly connected to the big poets of the 17th and 18th century. Goethe, Schiller, and so on. And this was the thing that united the Germans, the same language and the same culture. There were these icons of culture. In each city here or town here, there was a statue of Schiller and of Goethe. And each year there was a celebration of his birthday. And, the funny thing is most people didn't know anything about those guys. They haven't read the books. They just knew some famous lines or some summaries of some stories that they have written. And they were heroes. They were German heroes. They were idealistic heroes. Like for you in America, George Washington, for example, or Jefferson. Mm-hmm. Here in Germany, it was poets. It was drama poets. And the problem was then other guys came and wrote different stuff. They wrote dark stuff. They wrote stories about monsters and ghosts and supernatural happenings and so on. Such stories like H.P. Lovecraft did, and some preceding stories. I don't know if you know him. E.T.A. Hoffman is quite well known for being one of the first darker, Gothic-like writers. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's quite well known here in Germany. He's one of the few. And the Prussian government back then thought it was crap, so it's not good for the children to read. And they really burned the books. And the burning of the books is something that's happening here in Germany. Has happened for a long time. And that is something that I saw in my research, and that is happening back then. And so it's not only about the Nazis. It's some kind of genetic code that existed before it, the whole authoritarian thing. I mean, the Nazis didn't spring out of some cave or so. You don't know how to say it, but there was some kind of
the foundation
culture
was there.
Before that.
Yeah.
There was some basis for this. And that a difficult thing now is for us, the newer generation here now in 2014, is to see that after the Second World War, there was a turnaround that all people tried to be very democratic and very not authoritarian, but in a strange way. By this, they became authoritarian again. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I think it was the right thing back then. It was just 10 years after the Second World War, so they had to watch out for fascist roots in the society and have to pull it out. So they made the television and film system here in Germany the way that, for example, that there is some kind of a mission there. You have to educate the people about democracy and freedom and so on. And this is all good.
Yeah.
And that's why we are making so many films about social issues and realistic stuff and art house films. That's where it's coming from. And I think it's not bad the way it was planned. But now, it's been a long time now.
Need some variety.
I think, we need some variety. I think Germany today is very liberal and very democratic, and let's hope it won't happen anytime again, never again. So I think you can be some way more relaxing now, and shouldn't think that if you switch off some of those television programs that everyone here is voting for National Socialism or racism again. So I think we need some cultural freedom more.
So you mentioned Lovecraft, and I'm just kind of curious how you went from Warhammer to Lovecraft, because you have a Lovecraft movie we're going to talk about shortly here, the Dreamlands project.
It's coming up. But you also did Die Farbe.
Which was an adaptation of The Color Out of Space. It was released in 2010.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your love of Lovecraft and what took you there to start working on that.
Yeah, well, after Damnatus and the devastating results, I wanted to continue to make a film because I couldn't release that first film, so there should be another project soon. And back then I was studying at University of Media here in Stuttgart, so I was also learning new stuff and meeting other guys who would like to become part of a film project. And there was one guy, he became a friend of mine, Jan Roth. He is a 3D artist, and he also helped with Damnatos back then. And he's a big H.P. Lovecraft fan. And he was the one who gave me some books and told me to read it. It could something that I could like, and yeah, I fell in love with it. I just loved the whole atmosphere and the way he made his stories. I wouldn't say he's in writing very good stories, but he has some unique ideas. I mean, it's some kind of way similar with J.R.R. Tolkien. I'm a big Lord of the Rings fan as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say Tolkien isn't a really good writer, but he has very, very unique and strong ideas. Can't compare it with modern writers. It's not very easy to read Lord of the Rings. And the same thing with H.P. Lovecraft. I mean, it's very old as well, but I loved it, and I saw many elements in other things that I liked, and at that moment I realized where it all came from, and that was a revelation for me to see, okay, everything came from this guy, or many things, like take some TV series, for example, X-Files. There are some episodes that I think clearly are influenced by H.P. Lovecraft, and computer games and so on. And so, yeah, I really loved the stories, and there was one that was sticking out, and that was The Color Out of Space. So I talked with Jan about it, and we were almost completing our studies. So we needed to find our final exams work, a topic for our final exams, and there was the idea to make a film. And so I talked with him about The Color Out of Space. What about this story? And we soon had the idea to make the film in black and white and put the color in for the creature that is called the color. And we saw that no one else approached this story in that way, so we knew this makes sense. We should do this, and so we did it. We did it without the university, by the way, because it grew very big, the film project, and we couldn't do it with university. It took us 3 years to complete that film. We shot it in 2008, and it was released 2010. Yeah, with screenplay writing, it's 3 years. It just took too much time. We couldn't have spent so much time on our final exams, so we had to write that before it, and then went.
The longest final exam ever.
Yeah.
Well, that was his first short film that he directed was going to be a student film, but he ended up not making it there, and we made it because it became too big and too detailed and to be able to do for a student film.
Yeah.
So we understand that.
And that did well. It had a lot of awards.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was relieving for me because, after Damnatos, that disappeared somewhere on some dubious websites, Russian torrent websites, and so on.
Look
in
for
this
Russian
case, I
websites.
could really.
Look for the Russians.
Yeah. In this time I could release it probably, and between Damnatos and Die Farbe, I have learned much about filmmaking, and it's much more professional with professional actors. That's very important. Because Damnatos was filmed, 80% of the cast are friends of mine. So it's you can expect very good acting from them. But they tried hard, and it was good. Back then it was awesome what they were capable of. So I'm also proud of what we did. But you can't really compare it with a professional actor who has learned it and practiced and trained it for a long time and has just the talent to do it. Mm-hmm. And that was Die Farbe, and it was very well received, especially by the Lovecraft fans, because it's quite close to the original story. That was important for us as well, since we saw that many films out there that have the label H.P. Lovecraft on it are just using this name, and they make something totally different out of it. Many films are gory, special effects heavy, creature films or splatter films, and I would say most parts of the of H.P. Lovecraft's works are living from atmospheric and very, in some way, intellectual fears. I'm always saying that the usual horror films are it's a fear that is connected to your body. I don't know how to say it. It's fear that is immediately. It's like there's a murderer and he wants to kill you. It's about your corpse, your body that is tortured and destroyed. It's about your existence as a. It's about your life, your body.
It seems to be more psychological and philosophical type horror, I guess.
Yeah, and H.P. Lovecraft is more like an existential fear. It's not about you and your body and your life. It's about the whole cosmos. It's about humanity, and it's about our insignificance, and it's about that there's nothing out there. It's a cold universe, and it's probably even an enemy. You know, there are enemy gods who don't care about us creatures, and they want to kill us, or they don't care at all about us, and they are totally powerful, and we are nothing. So this is much more, as I said, it's more philosophical, and it's dealing with an existential fear about us as humans, and not about that pretty girl that is chased by the murderer on the screen. I mean, these are good films. I can watch them, but it's not Lovecraft. It's not about that.
Yeah, Lovecraft was a very uplifting guy.
They're feel-good movies, aren't
they? They're the feel-good family film of the year.
So when writing this adaptation of The Color Out of Space, it's a challenge to adapt any kind of prose work, but also a short film, or excuse me, a short story.
Short story.
So how did you decide to approach that structure-wise in your script?
With The Color Out of Space?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was important for us to stay very close to it, but we knew that we couldn't do it just technically, or how do we have to say it, in terms of production organization, because the one thing is the time, for example. The original story is happening, I think, in 1890 something or 1890s. Mm-hmm. So it's long before the First World War. It's really the time when people didn't have cars and so on. And I knew from another film project that I wanted to make a film about the German Revolution of 1848 and 49. Mm-hmm. Perhaps some of your audience know it. Many Germans back then tried to overthrow the king and establish a united Germany. And again, that's an issue. And a democratic Germany. And they lost the revolution, and many fled to the United States.
Yeah.
They are the so-called 48ers. And made career in the United States, and helped with also political issues like in your Civil War. I think most of the Germans fought for the northern states because of a more liberal political philosophy in the Union. Yeah, I wanted to make a film about that, but I realized that it is very, very complicated because of you need all the costumes. They have to be spot on of that time of period, and that's very, very expensive. And you need also the shooting locations. You need houses and streets that look like 18 something, and that's really difficult since Germany has seen 2 devastating world wars since then. There are the wars, and there's the progress, like people building new homes and new stuff, but also the wars that destroyed everything. And so it's also very difficult to find cloths and props and furniture from that time. If you find it, it's really expensive because it's unique. You don't have many pieces left. So I knew because of that experience that we couldn't make The Color to Space at the same time of the original story, so we had to pull it into more towards the nowadays. And I think also it's good for the story. That was the second thing I thought about it, that it's good for the story that it's closer in terms of the fear, the goosebumps you get if you hear that, there was the color, and it could be still there in that lake, in the woods out there. If that was happening, 60 or 70 years ago, that's too far away. If the dam was built 30 years ago or 40 years ago, like we told it in our film adaptation. We told it that the dam was built in 1970, so it's 40 years ago. So I think the threat is bigger than if you think about it, because if it's such an old lake, someone would have found something about it. In all the centuries. But if it's only 30 or 40 years ago, well, there could be something in it that someone haven't seen yet. Haven't noticed yet. So that was there are many thoughts went into this the screenplay writing process, and we still wanted to have something happening in New England, to have something that is connecting to the roots, to H.P. Lovecraft's homeland. And so we decided to make a small story outside of the usual story of the original story, and that is, if you've seen the film, that an American soldier who has been here in Germany after the Second World War was part of the occupation. He was stationed soldier in the occupation zone, and that he saw something here, and then as an old man in the 70s, suddenly is disappearing, and his son is searching for him. So his son is going from New England to Germany, and then everything develops there, and there he meets a strange old guy, and that old guy is telling him what happened back then after the Second World War. And we see the whole story that is The Color of Space. So that was the approach. We just did it because we felt it's a nice gesture towards the origin, H.P. Lovecraft, United States. And also I had that one image from the beginning in my head. In the original story, there are some policemen, I think, who are driving towards Emmy Pierce's farm and towards the well, and they try to find out what is happening there, and then they are fleeing because the color is coming out of the well. And since I knew I would have to push it towards our time, some centuries towards our time, and there's the Second World War here in Germany, and I wanted to connect it, and I had that image of American soldiers, GIs, running away from the color out of space, from the well. That was an image that was very strong, and I wanted to have it. And you can discuss about it. What is, there's perhaps some something in between the lines again. What we talked about before, what's the strength of a genre film, because you can deal with things without talking about it. And especially I think the German audience here, one thing is they haven't seen a film like this for centuries. This is very special, such a film that is science fiction and horror, but not the usual heads of horror and not the usual space science fiction thing. It's H.P. Lovecraft. It's very special. And they also saw the imagery with, old German homes. And you have the storyline with a German soldier coming home and the US GIs, and with this strange thing happening in the valley, and no one is talking about it. The people there who left there are shunned, and so on. So you can find something that is dealing with stuff that is happening here in this land, in this country. But I don't want to put it into the foreground, I'm just talking about it. There are some traces there. There are some things we could work with and that are connecting, but it's not what it's about. The Color of Space is not about the Third Reich, but we can play with some elements, and I think it has made the films even stronger. Perhaps, if someone is doing a one-to-one original adaptation of The Color of Space that is happening in Massachusetts, I'm fine with it. It could be a very strong film, but I think we added some nice little elements to the story, and I think adaptation is about that you shouldn't try to make something one-to-one. You should try to put something new in it without changing it. Do you know what I mean? Adding something to it, something personal, or something from your culture or your background.
Well, and I like the idea of the son looking for the father. That element, I think, just adds another layer to it, and I think it makes it seem more personal, because you might have a hard time imagining some of the more other elements like a color out of space and things like that. But anyone can really relate to, desperately trying to find someone that they love, a relative, a parent, a child. I mean, I think that kind of makes it feel more personal as a story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think
at least we tried it. I mean, there was also some concern that it's not strong enough, that we should leave it and don't do it. And yeah, if I look back at that film, perhaps I would do some things differently now and try to put even more emotion to it, because the Lovecraft fans loved the film, but we got some not totally negative feedback, but I would say that people who aren't familiar with Lovecraft and who are not fans of his work, they have more problems with Die Farbe, the film, since it's very bleak and it's not very emotional. You don't have a hero, for example. I mean, we tried to do it with the son who's searching for his father, but he's only appearing at the beginning and at the end. And in the middle part, which is the original story, The Call Out of Space, there's no hero. It's just we are seeing what is happening back there. And if you are a Lovecraft fan, you won't notice it.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah.
Yeah, because in most of the stories of Lovecraft, there is a protagonist, but he's not a hero in a way. He's just a witness of dark and sinister and evil stuff that is just happening. He's just realizing things that are pure cosmic existential fears and horror. So this is not the usual story that people are expecting who are not familiar with it. So yeah, perhaps I would try to make it differently, but perhaps not. I don't know. It was an experiment. We wanted to make the film for the fans. And if I can switch over to the Dreamlands now.
Yes.
Yes.
This is the new project. Yeah. And now
that was our next question was, please tell us about the Dreamlands and your Indiegogo campaign.
Awesome. Yeah. And there's a different approach now, because one thing is that we are not adapting a particular story. So it's not like this is the Dream Quest for Unknown Kadath and this is the film adaptation of that story. No, I take a bunch of stories that I really like and love that are dealing with the Dreamlands, and I pull out elements and topics and mix it all together into a new structure, into a new story. And this time, because I can write a new story with new characters and much more free, even as a fan, because I am a fan and I want to stay true to Lovecraft. But this time I can play around, and I think it's also in some way, I hope so, that H.P. Lovecraft would have liked it, because I think in his letters he has written that he wants other writers and so on to play with what he has done with his universe. He told his friends who have been writers and authors as well that they could take his stuff and make something else out of it. And I think the Dreamlands are inviting to do that, because the Dreamlands are a world that is always evolving and different. And if I make a film about the Dreamlands, it's not that the Dreamlands have to be this way. There can be another film by another guy who's showing a totally different Dreamlands, and no one can say which is the right one, because it's the Dreamlands. It's different in each mind, and it's different from each perspective, because there's no totally solid structure there, and everything is happening there. Everything can happen in the Dreamlands, so you can really be inventive and creative and make something new out of what H.P. Lovecraft has already written, I think. And I hope that the fans will think the same way. And yeah, that's a difference now in comparison to Die Farbe or The Color of Space, that now I can open it up and make something. And that was why I switched over. This film now, I hope so, is appealing to the fans very strongly, but also I hope so, that's the plan. It's an expensive movie, it's a big movie, so it has to also appeal to more the common people, the mainstream audience as well, people that like fantasy films and don't have any connection yet with H.P. Lovecraft. But they could be interested to see this dark fantasy film. I think that the script and the story is appealing for those people now as well. Whereas I would be cautious with Die Farbe and the color display.
Now, for someone who doesn't know anything about the Dreamlands, could you please explain a little bit about what that movie is about?
Do you mean the story?
The story, yeah.
Well, I would also say, what is the Dreamlands?
Yeah.
It's not Middle Earth.
Yeah, it's not Middle Earth. To explain the world at first is that, and that is taken out of H.P. Lovecraft's ideas, that there is a world that is created in sleep. So there are people who are dreaming, and collectively, perhaps, they are creating a world. Most people just see a glimpse of it. It's a fantastic, beautiful, and so on world, but there are some great dreamers, people who are very imaginative or very special in their ways of thinking, probably artists and not politicians, I don't know. Great dreamers who have created this world, and this world became, because they are so good in it and strong, that this world became somehow solid, so they can decide to go there in sleep while they are sleeping. So it's like a clear dream, I think it's called in English, clear dreaming.
Lucid dreaming.
Lucid dreaming, yeah, sure. Lucid dream, yeah, that's German, clear dream. Klartraum. It's lucid dreaming, and I think that's also dealing with this. I don't know if H.P. Lovecraft has made some research about lucid dreaming or not, or if he had lucid dreams. I don't know, but I think it's playing with this topic. And so, we have some special people, the great dreamers, who can go there. And if you have read the stories, Celefais, for example, is one of those stories where there's an old man, and he's poor here in this world, and he has no one. It's a very emotional story. That's why I like this story very, very much, and it's one of the most important stories for the Dreamlands, for the film, because there you have some kind of human emotion, and that's seldom seen in H.P. Lovecraft stories, because I really felt for this old man, and he's dying here he's lonely in our world, in our reality, but it turns to be that he is a king in the Dreamlands, and he could live there forever and be there forever, because time is running in different ways there, and that's really emotional, I think, and that's what will be in the Dreamlands, the film, as well. So that's one of the main topics. We have an old man, and he is, I can tell it, the king of the Dreamlands. Mm-hmm. And this old man is he meets an orphan, a young man, a young guy, a young boy. No, not young boy. He's 50 years old, so a teenager. Yeah, a teenager boy. And that boy has many issues. He's very lonely and is mobbed by the other guys in the orphan school. And there's something that the old man sees in that young guy, and he takes him to the Dreamlands and wants to test him if he could be his successor, because he needs to find a successor to be the next king of Celefais. And then there will be some conflicts, and I don't want to give away too much, but then it's about that young guy has to decide if he wants to continue the tradition, or if he wants to decide for the other side. There is an antagonist in the story as well that wants to. It's a creature. It's an entity. I don't want to give away too much, but that antagonist wants to destroy the Dreamlands because it's a creation of humans. It's some kind of a solid structure brought into pure chaos, and that's one of the main topics of the film.
Interesting.
Sounds good. And you don't have to spoil it by saying specifics, but are any of the creatures or other things that we know of in the Dreamlands from the stories, are any of them going to make an appearance?
Well, that's something I would love to do, but it depends on the budget, you know? The thing is that people shouldn't expect from us, since we are not a Hollywood studio with $50 million or something, or even more. I mean, even Guillermo del Toro couldn't get a green light at the Mountains of Madness because he wanted 150 millions, I think. he was shot before starting shooting in Alaska, and so on. And I think the executives didn't think that a film that is probably how is it called, PG-17,
PG-13
Oh, PG-13?
or rated R.
Or rated R?
Rated R, sorry, rated R, probably rated R, and there's no female in it and no love story. It's all about monsters in the Antarctica, So we don't have that much budget, far from it. So we can't do too fantastic stuff. We will try to bring some creatures in it. For example, there's the Shantak bird. Perhaps you've heard of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's some kind of very creepy, big, like a bat, but it has the head of a horse-like head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we would give it really a horse-like head, because I don't know if it. Yeah, it depends on the design process.
Yeah.
This is a good example, because we try to stick close to what H.P. Lovecraft has written, but horse-like head can be something that is not really a horse, can be something else.
Yeah.
And I think it's a Dreamlands. So our Shantak bird doesn't have to be that close to his description, because that was the Shantak bird in that story. The Shantak bird in our Dreamlands could be totally different, and I think it's also interesting to do it, to have some new ideas what a Shantak bird could be. And that's the one thing we would like to bring into it, because the Shantak birds, they are some kind of a transportation, how's it called? A creature you can ride, so you can fly with it from one point to the other. And that would be something that would be really nice to have in the film.
Everybody should have one of those for transport. That sounds fun.
But they are creepy.
Actually, the horse head makes it sound kind of cute.
You could, yeah. Or they're unicorn ones.
Yes, there you go.
Most artists, I think, they give it a horse skull, so without flesh.
Oh, well,
so
that would be creepy.
They're true to the words. It's a horse-like head, but it's very creepy because it doesn't have any flesh to it.
That would be creepier, because really horses are cute. So
Yeah, that's the problem. Yeah, so I think we will. Yeah, if we do a Shantak bird, perhaps we will depart from that.
Yeah, because most people look at a horse and go, "Oh, how pretty."
So how much money are you looking for the Indiegogo campaign?
Yeah, the campaign is aiming towards 200,000 euro. So it's really a lot of money. It's really much. But as talked about, it's a really big story. So we need at least some kind of decent budget to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a short film. It's a full feature. So we have to make, props and costumes and find locations that are fitting into the style of the film. And we want to travel here in Europe and try to film, for example, in Iceland. Iceland is very many Hollywood films are made there right now. It's a shooting location that is really how's it called? People like to shoot there, because you have the glaciers there, and you have volcanoes, and the black sand, black deserts, ash deserts, and you can't find it anywhere. And it's also not far away, just a couple of hours of flight. And so that's one dream we have, to go there and shoot not the whole film there. That would be much too expensive and much too complicated. But some scenes. Like, for example, the plateau of Leng, if you know what I mean, is a plateau in the Dreamlands that is very dark and creepy and eerie. And I think that Iceland could be the right canvas.
Oh, yeah.
Scenes there.
Okay, it looks like it would be close to about $280,000.
Ah, thanks.
Yeah,
okay.
around $277,000 American. So.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just want to give a reference for the American listeners.
The final budget. I mean, it's not sure that it would happen, but we talked about it, how German filmmaking here is working, the film system. So we will apply for governmental funding afterwards. Mm-hmm. This is quite unusual, but I think it's not working the other way around, because we just talked about the issues here. And I don't think that the people here would decide to give us the money to make this film, since it's a genre film, it's fantasy, and they probably wouldn't believe that this would turn out into something that is great and awesome. I don't know. I made some experiences here in talks with such people, and it's not like they embrace fantasy, horror, and science fiction and so on. They think the Americans should do that. The Americans are good with it, and they are the best. And that's true. I mean, you are the best in terms of genre filmmaking. I mean, that's the highest level where you can get to make something in Hollywood. But still, I think that as an independent filmmaker, you can do something differently, and that what we already talked about the cultural stuff. If I make a film here in Germany, by accident or not by accident, there will some elements going into this film that are coming from here. You know what I mean? From the history here, from the culture here, or from the language. Some things it won't be 100% American, even if I would take, like we did with The Cut Out of Space, American story of an American author. We put something to it. We add some things to it, and that's why I think there should be some fantasy, science fiction, and horror films that are made in Germany as well. Sure. Yeah. So, and that's what we will tell them after a successful campaign, because then I can tell them, look, there are so many people that want to see this film. I got 200,000 euro, or perhaps even more, I don't know, if we get there. And then I can apply for extra funding to add on that budget to have even more to make an even better film. So that's the plan right now.
Great.
I think that's great. You know, just because American filmmakers are doing a lot of genre stuff, there's no reason to discourage anyone else from doing it, because it would be different. It would be a different perspective, and there's no reason that someone in Germany can't do it as well or better than someone in
and it'll
America.
be a unique perspective, different culture too. So.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be that commercial as well, because, you know, most of the big science fiction films are made by the big studios, and they are some kind of streamlined and mainstream. I mean, if you look at science fiction films in the 70s or so on, they are different, and they have a different quality. And I think we should try to get in some way back to that time where there was more artistic freedom. And you can do this with a smaller science fiction film. I know if you have a $100 million film, you can't be that free. You have to stick to some rules and try to make it accessible for everyone, for the whole family, you know. But yeah, if we talk about Lovecraft, and that's I think that's an issue for Hollywood, and why there are no big Lovecraft adaptations, because it is Lovecraft. It's hard to translate it and to make it into something that is working for a really big audience. And so I think we can step into this breach here and try to make something that those guys wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do such a film like the Dreamlands, probably. Not in the way that I would like to do it. They would make it into some generic fantasy thing with many creatures and action scenes and a big cheesy love story perhaps, and I don't know, something else. They wouldn't stay true to the core, probably.
So this campaign at the time of this episode premiering is currently live, and it goes till May 31st, I believe. And so if you're listening, please check it out on Indiegogo. Please contribute or at least share. And you have some cool...
Yeah, at least share it. I mean, if you can't contribute, I can understand it. Not everyone has a lot of money in their pocket to throw out to some crazy German director. At least talk about it and share it. And perhaps someone else will step in and contribute. So you never know. Even people that are not that familiar with Lovecraft or fantasy or science fiction or horror at all, perhaps they just like it that someone out there is doing this, trying to make something in a different way.
Yeah. And like a €20, you can get a Blu-ray or 2-disc DVD of the movie. And so I mean, that's pretty good.
That's a very good incentive.
Yeah. So. Well, I wish you guys the best of luck.
Yeah.
And I wish you the best of luck as well with your own project. I think this is some kind of a new time where fans become more and more professional about filmmaking, and that we, together with by the way of crowdfunding, can create something. This is what I just talked about, to step into that breach between, amateur films that are just amateur films and the big industry films, and we can cater to a special audience that wants films that are not made and anymore, or had never been made, to make something that is new and unique.
Hey, this is Doug Jones from Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, Hellboy 1 and 2, Hocus Pocus, Pan's Labyrinth, and currently on Falling Skies. But today, you are listening to GenreTainment.
Well, thanks to Huan for speaking with us, and please look for the Dreamlands on Indiegogo and contribute or share the campaign to help support their film project. Before we go, we want to remind you that you can keep track of us on our GenreTainment Facebook page, Marx's Twitter account, which is @Mr. our website at GenreTainment.com, or all of the shows at SciFiPulseRadio.com.
So that's it for today's GenreTainment. We'll be back soon with all new guests from our favorite films, TV shows, novels, and web series.
GenreTainment is a production of Alien Jungle Bug Productions.
Until next time.
Bad monkey.